Josh, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So there's a little bit of I'm not sure somebody double booked me for this interview slot. All right, but I'm all yours.
I'm glad we were able to do this. Thank you for taking the time to do so.
You bet, man. No problem.
Oh, awesome. Well, it's great to be able to talk to you and talk about this amazing new album from Seventh Wonder, The Testament, coming out the 10th of June from Frontiers Music. I've gotten the chance to be able to check this album out, gave it several spins so far, and yeah, this really feels like such a great crowning achievement for where the band is right now. And it's just like when you got the epic moments going on, it feels so perfect. The great melodic moments, heavy moments, it's just got everything that I love about the band, but just updated enough for 2022.
Oh, cool, man. That's a very, of course, flattering description. I'm happy that's the way you feel. I'd like to think, well, that's what we're aiming for anyway. And you also mentioned the sound, and most of us, at least in the band, there was a little bit internal debate going on, but most of us are really happy with the mix. And me personally, I feel it's the best we've ever sounded. So very happy about that.
Oh, that's such an important thing too. I mean, especially when you've been in the game for this long. I mean, of course, everything's going to be different for everybody, but the fact that you enjoy this as much as you do, and you enjoy the sound that's coming out, that's such an important thing.
Yeah, it makes it fun. I mean, it's kind of like you spend years working and blood, sweat, and tears, and then it finally and you send away your baby to somebody else for them to do the finishing touches, and that step, the mix, is really, really important. So yeah, it totally makes the experience far more enjoyable if you actually end up in a happy place, with you liking mix, whatnot.
Oh, very much so. So thinking about that as well, I mean, what was it like to begin starting work on this album?
It felt pretty easy. I mean, we were between the Great Escape and Tiara. Everything was so messy for a while. I moved to the States. Tommy joined Camelot. The old drummer left. There was just a bunch of crap happening. Everybody were really tired after just churning out albums back to back. People were getting families and what have you. So, it was, and then we recorded the live doubles. Those 8 years between those albums doesn't really reflect the amount of time that we spent on it. But sure, it took a long time. So I still feel though that recording Tiara, going out on the road, that kind of put us we kind of get back to routine, but in a new way, that the way where we're in a new position in life and whatnot, but we felt comfortable as a band. So it was pretty easy, I think, this time around to, just pick it up after we got off touring Tiara and start writing again. So it was kind of effortless in a way.
Oh, and that is so great to hear too. I mean, yeah, especially when you got a stopgap in between albums like that, and just like you mentioned, I mean, with everyone having different things that are happening, like
Right.
solidifying a new lineup, life changes, starting families and stuff like that. I mean, things can change so much for better, for worse, and of course, with the whole world is shutting down a couple years ago, and still trying to pick up the pieces with that, it can just affect so many things. And I'm glad to see that despite it all, like Seventh Wonder is still that thrill and that joy to be able to write for, record for, and still be able to play live.
Right. We were kind of lucky too. I mean, we just came off the last show we did off the Tiara tour was in the US in September 19. So, literally like weeks later, or, a couple of months later is when the COVID thing hit. So for us, it was the timing couldn't have been better. I know a lot of bands suffered. Of course, for Tommy being in Camelot, it was a different thing. But for the rest of us, we just came back and we're going to go into writing mode anyway. And then now we just, done with the album. And right now they're lifting all the restrictions. So for us, timing couldn't be better.
Yeah. And, it's just, it's amazing how that can work out like that. I mean, for some bands like yourselves, I mean, just like being able to just take that time and be able to write and record, and I mean, it felt like you didn't have to worry about like the live shows or being able to do anything like that. I mean, you could just focus on the album, and being able to have time like that, it's a great blessing.
Right. So not too much changed from the way we would have done it without the pandemic. And sure, I mean, of course, everybody's lives were affected in other other ways. But if we're, talking strictly band perspective, it wasn't that big of a deal for the band. Then, however, it turns out that, I was expecting there to be, a huge void or like a vacuum for live shows now and their locations. But it turns out it's well, there is, but at the same time, every show that did happen, it's all backed up. So it's like a waiting line to go out and play, actually, which was a bit surprising. So it's a little bit more difficult to schedule shows than I thought. But yeah, I mean, that's a passing problem. So it doesn't really matter.
Oh, for sure. So thinking about that as well, too. I mean, obviously, like you said, you've moved over to here to the States now. I mean, what's it like for you to be able to write in a different country like this?
Well, I haven't moved over to the States. I did, and I lived in LA in 2011, 2012. But Tommy, the singer, has moved to Canada. So he lives there right now. And I went there to write with him the lyrics for this album. But I am still living in Sweden with my family and the rest of the band right now.
Oh, okay. I must have misheard that, but
no, that's fine. I mean, I just kind of went through a 10-year thing in a 22nd, so it's understandable to not follow.
Oh, well, still with that though, I mean, like with TR being able to get such a great reception, and I just imagine in that live setting too, being able to have such great songs that sound great in that live setting, and when you also have the back catalog as well too. I mean, you want to make sure you're able to keep up that momentum that's going on with Testament, and it's great to see that you guys did as well too. I mean, there's so many songs on this album that just feel like that they're going to sound so great in that live setting.
Well, I hope so. I mean, we played more extensively live on the Tiara tour than we had ever done before. We're at quite a lot on Mercy Falls back in the day in 2009, but not as much as this. So it really, took us to the next level in terms of routine and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And also, of course, Tommy's gained great experience from all his Camelot work in terms of playing live. So I think that we, going into writing mode this time, we had a little bit more. You could write a few things maybe with the purpose of it working well live. So yeah, I mean, I really think that a lot of these songs are going to carry over quite nicely live setting.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for that too. And I was so excited to see like the first release being able to come out for this album and seeing the reception the light has gotten as well too. I mean, obviously a bit of time in between albums, but it was so great to be able to hear that out for the first time, and it just sounded like Seventh Wonder was back.
Yeah, we had a bit of an internal debate as to what song to release as a single, but I adamantly wanted this one because even though it's nice to show people, new flavors of the band or whatever, but that's going to be in the album anyway. I wanted the single to be, quintessential Seventh Wonder, and I think, everybody gets to shine, and it's a great catchy chorus, typical kind of Tommy-esque song. So I really wanted this song, so I'm very happy I landed in that decision, and of course even more happy with the reception, like you said, which has been great.
Oh, for sure. And just like you said too, like the new flavorings that are going on throughout the album too, and just hearing that great diversity that's going on, like moments I wouldn't have expected on this album, and other ones that just sound like that signature Seventh Wonder sound all mixed together. And just from start to finish, I mean, it feels like this album goes exactly the way that it's supposed to, from the track listing, the different moments that are going on, the different instrumental interludes that are going on, and like everything that's going on with it just feels like it was meant to be this way.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it's the same way with After Mercy Falls. Well, maybe not quite comparable, because with The Great Escape, I know I wanted to have that super long that I wrote for that one. But let's put it this way. When you come off writing a concept album, it's great to just, play it as it is, kind of, go right off the cuff. You improvise, you just write with no deliberate sense of direction or purpose or meaning or whatever, and it just turns out the way it turns out. And for me, I had no clue what this album was going to sound like until it was actually done. Kind of felt a little bit erratic, little things going on here and there, and kind of liked what I was hearing, but it was difficult to get a feel for what it was actually going to be like in the writing process, because when you're coming off you're writing for a concept album, it has to be musically purpose. When you write, every song has to fill a purpose in the story, and it's fun. I mean, I like writing like that too. It's a cool challenge, but it's also it feels great to be free to just, roll with whatever kind of inspiration comes at you at any given time. So that was fun this time. So it was not, any deliberate writing going on like that. It just ended up the way it ended up. Although I'm happy you say that you hear some diversity in there, because for me, we keep beating ourselves up. I mean, every song we write is going to be between 104 and 116 BPM, verse in E minor, and of course in F sharp. And it just happens that it's just us. So we try to sometimes force ourselves out of that kind of box of where we tend to end up writing. But we try to push it a bit with TR. We did that kind of Toto thing with the title slips my mind right now. Anyway, The Truth, yeah. So but we sound the way we do when we write music, man. And for better or worse, that's just the way it is.
Well, I can definitely say it's for the better, because with every album, like every single Seventh Wonder album to date, it feels like a natural progression moving forward. And that's what The Testament sounds like to me. And yeah, I can hear that diversity that's going on, and just hearing that the great ebb and flow that happens throughout the album. And, a great example of that to me is like the transition from Under a Clear Blue Sky into Elegy. I just find that to be such like a powerful moment, because of how Under a Clear Blue Sky ends, and then you go into something like Elegy. It feels so perfect.
Oh, that's cool. Well, thank you. It just makes you super happy to hear feedback like that, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, for sure. So going back into that as well too, of course, musically being able to have a bit more free reign with it, and just writing songs that you want to be able to write, and not having to focus on a concept like that. When you go back and forth in between like that, obviously when you're working on a concept, you want to be able to make sure that everything's going to be clear and focused with that. When you're going into that, like how is that for you to be able to decide whether you want to go into a concept, or if you just want to write a great collection of songs? Like how are you able to decide that when you start writing?
I hate it and I love it. I grew up with, if you want to call it a concept album or not, Steve Harris did, but Seventh Son of a Seventh Son was my favorite album growing up for many, and the old Iron Maiden album. And then Dream Theater released Scenes from a Memory. And that was about the time, probably the same year that we formed this band. And also, I think the same year, Symphony X released V/5, the New Mythology Suite, also concept album. And, in your formative years, those things kind of, they make an everlasting impression. So for me, it was just the coolest thing ever. So I knew I had to do a concept album once, and that's when we did Mercy Falls. And then after releasing The Great Escape, and then the live, and it's been a long time, then I think it was actually, I can't remember really what happened. We had a band meeting. We had been starting writing, and then we stopped writing because of the live video that we chose to do. And then when we were getting ready to kind of pick up the pieces and get going again, we had a meeting. Well, me and Tommy had a meeting, and the other guys had a different type of discussion. And we said, man, maybe we should anyway. And that meant scrapping a bunch of stuff and kind of going back to the drawing board. You gotta be in a place where you think you can have enough energy to do it, because it's very draining, especially for me producing them. Although Tommy helped out a lot more this time for Mercy Falls, as I was executive producer of that, every freaking step that is a sound effect, and getting people in, and the voices, and the editing, and the mastering, and the cutting, and making sure it fits together, and then the booklet. So it's quite an ordeal. It's really draining. It'll totally bog you down. It's super cool to do it, very happy when it's done, and it's a fun challenge to write that way. But it's such a relief to just, like you say, go free range, let go of them and just roll with it. So basically, I can't see us doing it again, at least not within the in this decade, maybe in 2031 or whatever, but it will be a while.
So with the material that you scrapped, do you see that ever seeing the light of day in like a different way, or is that going to be just permanently scrapped?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Okay. Good question. Scrap was not like we've never been the type of band. Sometimes you read interviews and it can be with Metallica or Foo Fighters or whatever, and they said, yeah, we wrote 30 songs, man, and then we chose the 14 best ones and recorded them. We've never been a band like that. I mean, I think that in all of the band's history, which is 22 years right now, I think there are 2 songs, maybe 3, that we totally scrapped. So I mean, we basically every song we've ever written is more or less on the album. What we did with Tiara is that we had written, I think we were maybe 4 songs in the process, and we now we need songs like X, Y, and Z to fit the story, and then we went back and we threw out some parts and scrapped them, but we didn't scrap any entire song. So unfortunately, we don't have any leftover material really. We work pretty slowly, and arranging the stuff that we do just takes forever. So this is about as fast as we can work, and once we got enough tracks done and arranged to fill up an album, we record it and release it. So we don't sit on a bunch of material that was ever released. Again, it's happened like 2 or 3 times in 22 years.
Oh, and it's so great to hear that too. I mean, especially when you do have those ideas. I mean, you want to make sure that they're going to work and they fit the mold of whatever the album's going to be, conceptually or not. And just when you come up with good ideas, you want to be able to make sure that they can work out. I mean, whether you're able to have to put it off to the side for a bit, or you make sure that it's going to be on the album. And just hearing everything that's happening here with the Testament, it's just every riff feels like it's so important and it's meant to be on there. And I'm glad to see that you guys have that vision over this whole time.
Right. I mean, we spent that's why it takes a long time. Nothing, not hardly a single note on any ends up in a Seventh Wonder song without it being thoroughly debated. And it's like, we'd be at each other's throat for a long time. No, we can't be, it has to be an A. No, it sounds like it has to be there. Then we'll go at it for a long. Okay. So now we settle on that note. Now the next note, and so yeah, everything in a Seventh Wonder song is usually, with a few rare exceptions here and there, very, very intentional and very thought through. Again, that kind of, you could argue that that's pretty freaking far from how Deep Purple wrote and worked, and I totally respect that, and I love that and everything, but that's the way that we do it, and that's the only way we know how to do it.
And again, just listening to what's going on with the Testament, I'm so glad that you guys have that writing style, and no matter how long it takes, I mean, you want to make sure that you're having the best quality music that Seventh Wonder can be about. And just hearing that again here in 2022, it really is working to your guys' best work. And the more I listen to the album, the more that I'm picking up on stuff, the more that I'm enjoying everything that's going on. And yeah, it's just like there's been some time in between, but I never see a problem with that as long as it makes for a great quality album. And that's what happened once again.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way we can rush it. That's not how it works. And then Tommy works incredibly slowly. He's also, all of us are getting older, and he's always pushing himself with Seventh Wonder vocals, far beyond anything he ever does in Camelot. So it really takes its toll on him physically. So he takes a lot of time to record vocals, and we didn't really rush that. I mean, he totally blew out his voice doing Inner Enemy, the single that we did for the live thing in 2014, and he was messed up for 2 years more or less, which also kind of delayed Tiara, so, and a bunch of Camelot stuff. So yeah, we can't rush it even if we wanted to. And or let's put it this way, we feel like we're rushing it. I mean, we're beating our, what do you say in English? I lost the word. Anyway, we're not resting on our laurels. We're going at it as hard as we can. We work as much as we can. We were spreading it out in the rehearsal room studio and make sure that everything works. We don't have a big entourage doing things for us, right? It's just us guys with day jobs and families and whatnot, trying to make it work. So I don't want to sound like we're lazy or anything, because we work as hard as humanly possible for us to do this, but there's simply no way that we can work faster than this. And thankfully there are other bands out there, right, for people to listen to in between our releases, so it's all good.
Exactly. And yeah, and just life in general can get in the way of an album coming out every couple of years, and writing styles or whatever the case is. And just like you mentioned with Tommy, when it comes to lyrics and the recording and making sure that his voice is going to be able to come back and be
Mhm.
as strong as it is. I mean, there's so many variables that can happen in life, and I'm just, as a fan of Seventh Wonder, I'm just happy to know that you guys are working on new material as you can, and when it does come out, I can't wait to be able to check it out, and
That's
it's
super cool,
worth the
man.
wait.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you know, it was fun this time also with it's hard with Tommy being away in Canada, but we also had a great time right because now usually I would just go over to his place late at night after putting my kids to bed, and I'd drive there in the middle of the night, would write lyrics, and I'd go back home. But now, since he was in Canada, so I actually flew out there, and we just huddled up in a mountain cabin for a week, and just figured out what melodies were going to go in there, and just wrote all the lyrics. And then we had this awesome a road trip out of Vancouver from Calgary and celebrated his birthday with a Canadian family, and it was one of the best times ever. So I really enjoyed writing the lyrics this time around. It was also very, very personal because, without going in all too personal, life has been shit for me the past 2 years and been a lot of crap for me to dig through and put into this album. So we chose, even though it's not a concept album, we ended up having kind of a common theme to all the songs. So every song represents a human emotion, like anger, fear, despair, and all of that stuff. And it should be evident in the booklet for people to check it out. We also sing the specific word of the emotion once in every song. So, and that just made it so easy for me to kind of just look into myself and dig for those really strong emotions. And it also made for a very personal experience. So, I mean, some things I can hardly listen to without, getting very, very emotional. So lyrically wise, and I know also for Tommy, especially with Elegy for him, I think the lyrics never been more personal than they are on this album for us.
Yeah, and I've been noticing that the more that I listen to the album, and the fact that you did lay it out there like that with emotions, like I'm thinking back to the lyrics, and I'm just like hearing that in my head already, and I know the next time that I listen to the album again, I'm going to be able to pick up on so much more thanks to that.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, and with that's got me so much more excited to be able to check out the artwork that's going to be going on with this, because I love the album cover already. I think it just perfectly fits what the overall album, and seeing the actual artwork that goes along with it. I'm so excited about that now.
Yeah, no, I'm super happy. Again, both artwork and mix, probably my favorite ones throughout all of our career, which is pretty cool for that to happen these many albums in. So, yeah, I love the artwork, and he was a pleasure to work with too. We threw a bunch of stuff, last minute things when Tommy and I were figuring out all these themes and concepts, and he never complained. We were badgering him constantly, and he just did a great job. So yeah, very happy with the artwork.
Oh, for sure. And I'm so glad to see that, despite how shitty things have been over the last couple of years, that you were still able to maintain that mind frame of making sure that you can continue with Seventh Wonder, that you can make sure that this album is going to be a great album. And the fact that you can go through the trials and tribulations of life and be able to say that, 22 years into the band's career, that you're still finding moments of like the artwork and the mixing being some of the best work that has happened with the band. I mean, it's so awesome to hear that.
Yeah, it's very satisfying for sure.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, I think that's a great note to end on, and I thank you so very much for taking the time to be able to talk to me about everything that's been going on through life, the trials and tribulations of life, and on the other side of it, seeing that in less than a month now, we're getting the Testament through Frontiers Music coming out on the 10th of June. I'm so fortunate to be able to have been able to check this out for as long as I have, and really being able to digest everything that's going on and being able to understand more of the album now, thanks to you. I mean, of course, not being conceptual, thematic going on, it's going to make me appreciate that so much more when I listen to it going forward, and just being able to get your insight into everything. It's just been an incredible time.
Thank you so much, man, for this interview. It felt personal, and I appreciate you taking the time to, think through questions and everything. So I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, not a problem. And I love being able to promote good music. And this is an interview that I've wanted to do for such a long time. Being able to talk to you, going back and forth like this, has just been an incredible time. I can't wait to be able to show off this interview and be able to promote what I think is going to be one of the best albums of 2022.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem. Well, once again, I thank you for taking the time to be able to do this on a busy press day, so I'll let you go. But one last time, I just want to thank you again for taking the time to do this. It means a tremendous amount to me, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much, man. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.